The wheel is one of the oldest inventions of humanity, and for sure one of the most important. Contemporarily, we couldn't imagine a world without it, since it is crucial for many things. But not only for vehicles like cars or bicycles, but also, for example, for the function of a watch or a merry-go-round. The wheel was first seen on small clay tables, discovered in Mesopotamia. These tables represent a car with wheels and are more than 5,000 years old. According to archaeologists, the wheel was invented in Mesopotamia over 6,000 years ago, but we don't know who the inventor was. Supposedly, the first wheel was invented after the first human beings used cylindrical tree trunks to move heavy things. Observing this, someone very intelligent must have thought that making a wooden circle with an axis, like current wheelbarrows, it would be much easier. And from then on, the first potter's wheel and cars appeared. Crafts were the first to use the wheel, and it made it easier and faster for potters to make their pots, thanks to the potter's wheel. Here we can see how two wheels and an axis help this craftsman endlessly. Through time, the wheel was also used in transport. Animals didn't have to carry heavy weights on their backs. Now, thanks to wheels, they pulled the cars and moved a lot more weight with less effort. And from then, the wheel has been an essential partner to human beings. Look, look! The number of wheels we can see around us. The truth is, that is such a cool invention, don't you think? Goodbye, happy friends! See you in our next happy learning video.
Search us and subscribe to Happy Learning's YouTube channel.
Hello friends! Welcome to a new happy learning video. Today, in our section Great Inventions of History, we're going to get to know the bicycle. The bicycle is one of the most fun means of transport there is. Also, it is very ecological and very healthy, since when we ride a bicycle, we do physical exercise. But do you know who and when the bicycle was invented? No? Well, let's find out. The truth is that, unlike many other inventions, the bicycle was invented in various phases, and it was various people who intervened in its evolution until reaching the bicycle we know today. Here you can see the first bicycle in history. It was invented by Carl Drace in 1817, but it doesn't look a lot like contemporary bikes. It didn't have pedals, and you had to push it with your feet on the ground. In 1861, the Frenchman Ernest Michaud thought of putting pedals on the front wheel, but because it didn't balance correctly, people fell off, and his idea didn't succeed. But it was useful, so in 1873, James Starley, an English inventor, would manufacture a bicycle with a front wheel a lot bigger than the back one. Although the falls from so high up were dangerous, he made it easier to drive them. So in 1873, Thomas Stephen commenced the first trip around the world. He took 3 years to finish it. In 1885, John Kemp Starley, James Starley's nephew, invented a safe bicycle. Because it had brakes and was a lot lower, falls were less frequent and less dangerous. Exactly! It was more secure. He had created a contemporary bicycle. From this moment on, the bicycle became famous throughout the world. And it started to be used for circus shows, to travel, or just to do sports. But the bicycle's history hasn't ended. There are still new bikes being invented, like mountain bikes, race bikes, electric, or some which won't even move no matter how fast you pedal, like at the gym. There are a lot of curious bicycles, like all of these. It's clear that the bicycle is an invention which runs smoothly. So everyone, let's ride a bike! Goodbye friends! See you in the next Happy Learning video. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to Happy Learning TV.
Search us and subscribe to Happy Learning's YouTube channel.
And welcome to a new Happy Learning video. Have a look at these images. As you can see, the first phones that were invented have nothing to do with the ones we have today. In fact, we don't call them that anymore. Now, we call them mobiles, and they have become an essential part of our lives. Today, in our series, Great Inventions That Changed History, we're going to get to know the origin and evolution of the telephone. The first telephone inventor was an Italian scientist named Antonio Meucci. In 1854, as his wife was ill and couldn't move, he invented the teletrafono, an instrument which allowed acoustic signals to be sent great distances. This way, whilst he was working on the bottom floor of his house, he could talk to his wife, who because of her illness was almost always in the top floor of the house. 6 years later, he gave a public demonstration and was able to transmit through the teletrafono the voice of an Italian singer. La, 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 la. But nobody paid him anything for his invention. As Meucci had little money, he couldn't register and protect his invention forever, and he only registered it for 3 years until 1873. In 1876, the British inventor Graham Bell took advantage of the circumstances and he registered the telephone, this time more perfected as his own invention. And as he did have a lot of money, he registered it forever. When Meucci found out, he denounced Bell. But because he was so powerful and Meucci was poor and couldn't afford good lawyers, he always lost at court. In 1889, poor Antonio Meucci died, without his great invention being recognised. Throughout the years, everyone has unfairly believed that Graham Bell was the inventor of the telephone, until 2002, when justice was served and the United States and many other countries finally recognized Meucci as its creator. In the years since the 19th century, leading up to the present day, the telephone has evolved non-stop. The first telephones were fixed and had a handle to make them work. Then, discs were introduced with numbers to be able to dial. Further down the line, they changed these discs for buttons. Until the first wireless telephones were created, the first mobile phones. The one we can see here in this image is one of the first mobiles in history. One of these old mobiles, with their battery, could weigh up to 10 kilograms. The truth is, they weren't very practical, and that's why they didn't last long and began to rapidly improve. Images were introduced, first in black and white, and then in color. Then came infrared, Bluetooth, cameras, touchscreens, the internet, and then came the smartphone. The telephones of today. The telephone is an invention which has changed history and our lives. But we need to be intelligent when it comes to using them. We can't spend all day with the phone in our hands. We can't be connected to it all the time. Our body needs to go out. To do exercise, we need to see the world and nature with our own eyes and not through screens. We need to smell flowers, the countryside, the sea. We need to hug our friends and truly experience life. And telephones, mobiles and screens will never give us that. Goodbye, friends. See you in the next video.
Search us and subscribe to Happy Learning's YouTube channel.
Hello, friends, and welcome to a new Happy Learning video. Have you ever noticed how many books there are around us? Books of adventures, of games, animals, and riddles. There are so many, and they're so wonderful. Well, perhaps these books would have not existed if it weren't for a wonderful machine invented by Johannes Gutenberg in the 15th century. Today, in the series Great Inventions That Changed History, we are going to learn about the printer. Well, the truth is that the printing press was not created by a single person. It was something that took shape over many years and with the contribution of many creators, like all great inventions. Although it was Gutenberg who stole the limelight. Before the printing press appeared, books were written by hand and then were copied one by one. Can you imagine having to copy a whole book? As it took so long to copy them and required so much work, the books were very expensive and could only be bought by people with a lot of money. Education and culture did not reach everyone, and most people were illiterate. They could not read. The printing press is a machine that is used to make books quickly. But the first idea of something similar arose in China in the 4th and 5th centuries. The Chinese invented xylography, which consisted of a wooden plate on which a text or drawing was carved. This plate was coated with ink and rested on silk or papyrus. Very clever, but it was very difficult to carve a whole text on wood, and, moreover, few copies could be made because it would wear out very quickly. Hundreds of years later, in the 11th century, also in China, a gentleman called Bi Sheng came up with the idea that if he made the letters in clay, one by one, he could move them, exchange them, and reuse them to write different words. Another great breakthrough! But the system was still not very practical. The clay letters were easily broken, and the truth is that it was not very successful. But in the 15th century, a German goldsmith arrived and created the machine that would revolutionize the whole world, Johannes Gutenberg. He was the genius who made wooden molds of letters and filled them with lead. He made many letters and put them on a support to form the words. He fixed these supports to an old grape press, soaked them in ink and ta-da! The printing press was born. Now, many books could be made in a short time and much more cheaply. Thanks to this ingenious invention, everyone could learn to read and society became much more educated. Of course, this machine was perfected more and more, and now books come out of much more sophisticated printers, and some don't even need to be printed like those from Happy Learning. But if it weren't for that first printing press made by Gutenberg, maybe tonight you wouldn't fall asleep reading that story you like so much. Has that ever occurred to you? Goodbye, friends. See you in the next video.
Search us and subscribe to Happy Learning's YouTube channel.
Welcome to a new Happy Learning video. Do you know what this is? It's the base of a machine that caused a revolution. Today in the series Great Inventions That Change History, let's get to know the steam engine. It's incredible to think that a single invention could have changed the world. Before the steam engine, everything was different. Traveling, farming, and making things depended on the strength of people, the help of animals, or the whims of the wind. And of course, everything went a lot slower. The steam engine made means of transport, such as ships or trains, faster. And so people and goods could get from one place to another a lot quicker. And also jobs that had previously been done by hand or by animal power started to be done by machines. Almost everything could be done with less effort. Factories were created, lots of factories. And cities grew and grew, and the world was transformed. All this happened between the 18th and the 19th century, and it is called the Industrial Revolution. It was very, very important. But the story of the machine that made the change possible starts much earlier, in the 1st century AD, with Heron of Alexandria. Heron of Alexandria was a Greek engineer and mathematician, and thanks to his inventions, he is considered to be one of the most important scientists of antiquity. Heron was very curious about the power of steam, and experimenting with it, he invented the first machine that moved thanks to thermal energy, the one you see here. And he called it Aerolypia. What a name! The Aerolypia consists of a hollow sphere connected by 2 tubes to a container filled with water, a sort of covered pot. The container is heated So the steam, which has nowhere to escape, rises through the pipes to the sphere. And from there, it comes out through some tubes. As the steam escapes, with a lot of force, the sphere spins. See? And you ask yourself, what is this for? At that point in time, nothing. Heron couldn't think of anything useful to do with the gadget. And although it caused a sensation at the time, it ended up becoming a child's toy. Can you imagine? Time went by, and several inventors tried to take advantage of this toy to give it a more practical use, although all of them without much success. Until the Scottish engineer called James Watts made some changes and turned it into the steam engine. But how does it work? Well, it's very easy, really. Look, it looks like magic, but it's something much, much better. It's science. Coal is poured into a boiler and a fire is built. The fire turns the water into steam. The steam rises through the pipes with a lot of force. So much force that it pushes this thing, which is called a piston, to one side to another, to one side and to the other. You see? When the pistons move, also moves the mechanism that pushes the wheel. This wheel is called a transmission wheel because it in turn turns other wheels. And with this mechanism, we can move almost anything. As you can see, great inventions, great changes don't happen from one day to the next. And quite often, they are not the work of just one person. Yes! To achieve any goal requires curiosity, study, effort, and imagination. Who would have thought the heron of Alexandra's little toy would end up changing the world? Bye-bye, friends. See you the next time.
Search us and subscribe to Happy Learning's YouTube channel.